Have you ever wondered how the Jewish people, a tiny group on the world stage, have not only survived, but actually thrived, despite facing some of the worst persecution in human history? The horrors of the Holocaust, yet continues to flourish today in vibrant cultures, powerful intellectual movements, and tight-knit communities all around the globe. We're talking about a community that has endured forced exile, pogroms, relentless anti-Semitism, and of course these aren't just interesting trivia points. They ray insights into how a people's mindset, they're about the incredible capacity of humans to adapt, grow, and find hope even in the darkest moments. Traditions and community structures have allowed them to not only endure suffering, but come through it with their spirit intact. In this video, we're going to explore 15 mind-blowing facts about the psychology of Jewish resilience, and here is why this matters for you. These lessons aren't just about Jewish history. This isn't just about religion. It's about a shared story, a shared memory, and even shared trauma. Right down to modern cities like New York and Tel Aviv, it gives you a profound sense of continuity. So pour yourself a coffee or tea, get comfortable, and let's dive into the fascinating and at times unexpected secrets behind Jewish resilience. You're not just struggling alone, you're carrying forward something much bigger than yourself. The power of collective identity, but each develops systems of mutual aid that help them survive waves of anti-Jewish violence. Communities pooled resources, supported widows and orphans, and established communal funds to help families rebuild after tragedy. Let's start with something that's absolutely foundational, the power of collective identity. It's a ritual that says, no matter what else is happening, we have this. We're connected across generations. They mark time, ground people in the present, and create islands of stability even when the outside world is anything but stable. For centuries, Jewish communities have built an incredibly strong sense of belonging. When you're a part of a group that sees itself as historically linked across thousands of years, from the exodus out of Egypt to the scattered shtetls of Eastern Europe, parents teach their children not just how to perform rituals, but why they matter, embedding a sense of identity and resilience from a young age. Even in tiny villages, it was common to have schools where children learned not just to read and write, but to analyze, question, and debate. For Jewish communities, ritual isn't just religion, it's a psychological lifeline. And this isn't abstract. Throughout history, when Jews faced persecution, they turned to each other. A community that treasures knowledge produces people who can think their way through crises. That democratization of knowledge helped entire communities become more adaptable and resilient. The concept of Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, and even the way Jewish people have approached mourning and grief, play critical roles in building resilience. For example, look at Jewish neighborhoods in places like Morocco, Poland, and Iraq, vastly different cultures. Psychologists know that feeling deeply connected to a group can dramatically increase a person's resilience. The strength of tradition and ritual closely tied to this is the power of tradition and ritual. It built a mindset where problems were meant to be wrestled with, not simply endured. Throughout Jewish history, even when people were scattered across continents, they maintained remarkably similar religious practices, lighting candles on Shabbat, celebrating Passover with symbolic foods, reading from the Torah. Why does this matter psychologically? Because rituals give structure to chaos. Think about sitting down with family on a Friday night, reciting ancient blessings that your ancestors may have spoken centuries ago. There's also the deep emphasis on passing down traditions and values. Studies on trauma show that people who have strong cultural frameworks often cope better in times of stress. The impact of education and knowledge. Now, let us talk about something that stands out perhaps more than anything else in Jewish culture: the value placed on education. For thousands of years, Jewish communities have centered life around study. This culture of critical thinking and intellectual curiosity did more than create scholars and rabbis. That has huge psychological implications. Being taught from a young age to question, to seek answers, and to find meaning in text gives people tools to navigate adversity. It's also why you see disproportionate Jewish contributions to fields like science, philosophy, medicine, and law. And here's something powerful. Education wasn't just for the elite. Even humble merchants or tailors valued learning. In part two, we're going to continue unpacking this story by looking at how Jewish humor, the power of humor in the face of darkness. All right, let's pick up with something that might surprise you: Jewish humor. If you've ever spent time around Jewish communities or watched Jewish comedians, you know there's a special kind of wit there, often self-deprecating, sometimes dark, always sharp. But this isn't just entertainment. Psychologists have long recognized humor as one of the most powerful coping mechanisms humans have. It reframes pain, gives people control over how they process suffering, and builds bonds among those who share them. Joke, yet instead of collapsing under the weight of it all, communities develop a kind of ironic humor, a way to say, yes, life is hard. Yes, people try to destroy us, but we're still here, and we can still laugh. Think about it. Jewish history is filled with tragedies. It wasn't because they didn't understand the horror. It was precisely because they did. Comedians like Mel Brooks and Jerry Seinfeld, or even more modern examples, draw on that same long tradition of laughing at the absurdity of suffering to keep spirits afloat, instead of becoming bitter or passive in the face of tragedy. The idea is to roll up your sleeves and help heal what is broken, whether that is feeding the hungry, fighting injustice, or even just being kind in daily interactions. For Jewish communities, this isn't a new discovery. It's been a cornerstone for thousands of years. Humor offered a fragile but real space of psychological relief. Loss is inevitable for all humans, but Jewish traditions have developed deeply thoughtful ways to process it. This resilience through humor runs deep. Holocaust survivors often talk about how even in ghettos or camps, people found ways to joke, and the community comes to visit, bring food, share stories, and simply be present. This keeps the memory of loved ones alive and woven into the fabric of communal life. They ensure that grief is not something a person bears alone, which is incredibly protective against depression and complicated mourning. The mourners don't have to act strong or move on quickly. The structure of Shiva gives them space to be exactly where they are in their grief, and it's still alive today. Tikkun Olam, repairing the world. Now let's talk about one of the most beautiful concepts. In Jewish tradition, Tikkun Olam, which means repairing the world, is about engaging fully with life, its complexities, refusing to turn away even when it's painful. And look at what Jewish psychology ultimately teaches us about living a meaningful, resilient life, even if you're not Jewish at all. And that builds a kind of mental toughness and depth that pure optimism never could. From a psychological standpoint, this is huge. It takes personal or collective suffering and channels it outward into positive action. That perspective gives people a sense of purpose that's proven to strengthen resilience. Imagine the impact of growing up hearing that you're not just living for yourself, but that your life has a mission to make the world better. But it also insists that even when answers are elusive, there's value in the search itself. In modern psychology, we see the power of altruism again and again. People who engage in meaningful acts of service often report lower rates of depression and higher overall well-being. Grief, mourning, and the structure of healing. He captured a deep truth embedded in Jewish thought, that humans are meaning-seeking creatures, and that purpose is often forged in the fires of hardship. Another remarkable aspect of Jewish life is how it deals with grief. Take the practice of sitting Shiva. When someone dies, the immediate family stays home for 7 days. There's also the tradition of saying the Kaddish, a prayer recited in memory of the deceased, which is typically done in a community setting. From a psychological perspective, these rituals prevent isolation, and it's not just about the individual. These mourning practices reinforce the idea that the community carries loss together, and that even the heaviest burdens are lighter when shared. Finding meaning in struggle, all of this ties into one of the most profound aspects of Jewish psychology, the drive to find meaning in struggle. From the biblical stories of Job questioning God to countless rabbis wrestling with why suffering exists, Jewish tradition never shies away from hard questions. Viktor Frankl, a Jewish psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote in Man's Search for Meaning that those who found purpose, even in the camps, were the ones most likely to survive. So when Jewish teachings emphasize questioning, struggling, wrestling with God, it's not about losing faith. In part 3, we're going to bring all these threads together. What this means for all of us. So by now, we've seen how the Jewish experience, forged over thousands of years through triumph and tragedy, offers profound psychological lessons. But here's the key point. These insights aren't just valuable for Jewish people. They're universal truths about how humans can build resilience, cultivate meaning, and keep moving forward even when life is painfully hard. Think about the big ideas we've explored, belonging to something larger than yourself. When your life story plugs into a bigger narrative, whether it's family, community, tradition, or faith, your personal struggles stop feeling so isolated. That alone can be a massive protective factor against despair. Marking time with rituals. It says, no matter how chaotic the world gets, we still have this. Whether through charity, activism, or simply acts of kindness, you start to rewrite your own story from victim to contributor. Even modern therapists recommend rituals for clients navigating grief or anxiety because they create anchors in the storm. Having small, repeated practices, lighting candles, saying a short prayer, gathering for a meal, grounds you. That gives permission to grapple with big questions without shame. It normalizes doubt as part of the journey. Finding purpose by serving others. The concept of tikkun olam, repairing the world, pushes people to turn outward, not inward. When pain hits, allowing space for questions and doubts. Jewish tradition is famous for its debates. The Talmud isn't a book of clear answers. It has thousands of pages of argument, wrestling, wondering, the hidden strength and imperfection. That pain isn't just an obstacle, but often the very thing that shapes us into more compassionate, grounded people. There's also something beautifully humble about the Jewish psychological approach. It acknowledges that being human means messing up, learning, and trying again. In fact, your struggles become the very ground on which your resilience grows. Instead of striving for some unattainable ideal of perfection, it emphasizes teshuvah, the continual process of returning, reflecting, starting over. Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. We've got so many more powerful stories and insights ahead, and there's always a new way forward, even in the hardest moments. That mindset is deeply liberating. It means your worth isn't destroyed by your failures. Why this still matters, and maybe that's the biggest takeaway. In a world obsessed with shiny success, stories, and filtered social media highlights, these ancient perspectives remind us that it's okay to be unfinished. Whether you draw these lessons from Jewish teachings or find them echoed in other traditions or personal experiences, the core message is the same. Life will break you open. The question is whether you'll let those cracks become doorways to deeper meaning, invitation to reflect. So here's what I'd love for you to do. Drop a comment below sharing one ritual, story, or piece of wisdom that's helped you through a tough time. And if this video gave you something to think about, or if you want to explore more timeless lessons like these, from the intersection of ancient wisdom, modern psychology, and everyday life, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Thanks for spending this time with me. Remember, you're not alone. Your questions are valid. See you in the next video.